Cool. So this is the backtesting video, which I filmed like 10 times now. So essentially, I did the whole backtesting video and I forgot to click record, so that's my fault. But yeah, so I carried on anyway, and then I thought I'd just come back and I'll review at the end. So this is New Zealand yen, and essentially, one of the reasons I chose this pair is just because I haven't really backtested yen pairs enough, and New Zealand yen is a wicked pair. Just wanted to get kind of learn a bit more about it. So I'll kind of just walk you through my thought process and how I did it. So, starting with New Zealand yen, I essentially was looking at the sort of inflection points. So we had this point, that point, and then essentially we were here. So just played these candles out. I think I started around about, here somewhere. No, uh, yeah, I'm not too sure, but anyway, we had the 1, 2, 3. I looked at this point here, wasn't really convinced. I was more so interested in this inflection point, but was looking at that bit over there, and then thought, okay, next targets could be over here and here. So um, played the candles out a little bit more, and I'll just go to the daily. So go to the daily, just because it's a large structure. I didn't want to. Yeah, so here we go. So what we had was we had a 1, 2, 3. Um, It didn't hold a huge amount of weight to me, though, I'll be honest with you, because we did have a near miss down here, so it kind of gave me a clue that could we gravitate back down here after I saw this. Um, the next one was obviously we had a push down, especially with so many impulsive candles. Going on to the 1 hour, there wasn't really any entry. I think if I was able to go to the 15-minute, I would have probably seen a trade here. But would I have taken it? That would have been a bit of a hard one, and also a trade here and here. Probably, I don't know if I would have seen them. Then I kind of played these out a little bit more. So I did go back down to the 1 hour now. And I saw this says, okay, that's point one. And then at this point here is when I kind of realized, okay, cool. If we do come up, I'll be looking at this area, and then, that. So between there really, but more so this sort of 1, 2, 3 leading up to this structure here, but also being aware there's an override. And we didn't quite get there. So that was a little bit unfortunate. So there was no trade to be taken. And then played this out a little bit further and we broke below here. So I was then saying, okay, if we are moving down to this low, we'd see a larger flag. So I'm not going to take anything smaller. So then I kind of just sat here, waited a little bit, and I saw touch one. So I set that as a flat line, push down, and then we came up, and then I think at this point here was where I was like, oh, okay, we're so close, but we didn't, and we started selling off again. And I was kind of a bit patient, thinking, oh, could this be a flag to probably sell? But I didn't want to take it at that low, so I stayed a bit more patient. And then, unfortunately, we did get that little commitment, but we pulled straight back up. And then I was like, all right, sick. So are we coming back to this point that we missed? That's at that point now. I was like, okay, evaluate. And I think it was at this point here where I got my first trade. So had the evening star. I did set a little bit of extra pips. I could have taken 15 really, but I thought, I need to protect myself in case the trade doesn't commit from here. It just pushes up a little bit and then commits. And also, you've got this to the left. I don't think that held a lot of weight, but I think obviously stops wise, I just wanted to be protected. So took that trade and then played it through and almost tagged me out. Just literally almost tagged me out. Especially it was just come up to high spread hours, so I was very, very lucky at that point not to be tagged out. Um, and then I think 10 o'clock came, so it's contemplatable if spreads just tagged me out there and then it sold off. But I think it would have sold off and then spreads got a little bit higher. Spreads closed and then it went up again. So I think I would have stayed in the market there. There was a decent amount of pips between here and here anyway, around about 5, 6. I mean, I don't know. Depends on the broker as well. So anyway, and then I believe I was tagged out just there, unfortunately, which is pretty sad to be honest, because yeah, I thought the trade was really going to play out. That's weird because I thought this trade did play out. Anyway, so I was on -1 at this point. And yeah, so that was my first trade on here, the -1. Then furthermore, obviously we broke above here. I then evolved this trend so slightly, and I was like, okay, cool. And then we pushed back in. So at this point here, I was like, okay, 6. So we had the 1, 2, 3, um, which I did quite like the 1, 2, 3 here. I thought this was nice, towards this potential expanding to the low, retest off this high. So I thought, okay, this would be a sick trade. Took the trade, and yeah, behold, tagged me out. Realized it's not a valid trade. It's not really a high probability trade. Don't know why I took the trade in the end. Kind of just thought this would be an expanding, and I took it. But looking at the middle section, so much to it, wasn't really a good trade. So 2% down at that point. And it was kind of like, okay, hang on a second. I need to really think about where I'm entering in my value zones and so forth. So then I took some time, waited for the price to really play out. And then I realized, between those two losses and then when I actually took my trade, 6 days. So can't be trading every day in the live markets on a particular pair. It's like there's no trade for 6 days, even though that this shaped up and did some stuff, wasn't the trade I was looking for. So I played that through, was evaluating, saw that as a potential high, wasn't, and then we pushed down. So I was like, okay, cool. The odds are we are coming to this low. I just need to look for a good entry, and then played this out. It was correcting. Then I was like, oh, interesting. So we have two touch there. Are we going to push back up, come here and reject? So that's where I kind of just thought, this was a premature trade. It was fully premature because we didn't come to that touch yet, but I took a 25 pip stop loss. The thought process was there, but it was premature because we didn't actually reach the high. We just kind of got there impulsively. So it's lucky that I made percentage on this one, but it was premature for sure. And then it was very lucky. So this is the one I confused with the first trade. I just got stayed into this trade, and then it played out. So that was really good. And then yeah, so this one played out for I think roughly around about 6%. I was taken out around about here. I thought I'd be a little bit more aggressive with the management once we broke that low, just because this became very impulsive, and impulse was very very much different. I thought larger flag, so I looked at that high for a trade, but unfortunately I wasn't able to capitalize on this. It just carried on selling off. Sort of pretty harshly. I could have made 20 something percent. But yeah, so carried on selling. Wasn't able to capitalize on any of these trades, unfortunately. There was a good trade here though. Believe this was the trade, but unfortunately, yeah, no, I wasn't able to capitalize on that. And yeah, so that was it basically. Um, and then yeah, so we did sell off pretty sharply. We got down to those lows, we broke those lows, and then I think when I looked on the 4 hour, I was like, okay, shit. So this is some significant low now. We've definitely pushed off. Um, Big trade though, big amazing trade, and it was great to actually even make 6%. So I wasn't bothered. I was like, okay, cool. I was 2% down. Now I'm 4% up. I'm up. Just need to be smart about my next entries. So I waited patiently, and then I saw price rapidly pulling up. I was looking for a flag over here, but unfortunately it just continued. And then I was like, okay, great. So then I saw this as the squeeze, and then I go to the 1 hour, and I saw it more so as this, but I didn't want to take the trade on the phase. I thought I would look for sort of price to breach that, which I don't know if is the best of ideas because it can always come back down here, which is the probable, right? And then I think it did come down, tagged me out there. So I took another 1% loss. At this point here, I was 3% up. Um, and then we did come down there tagged, and I thought, okay, you know what? I've seen trades like this many times. We have the lows. I'm going to take this trade, and then I took it, and I think then I became aggressive with my management once we broke above that a little bit, and then I think that's when it just kind of came back down and tagged me out eventually. So it wasn't bad because really and truly it was what was running 0.72, and then I think maybe management wise I would have been a little bit different, but I think I kind of left it here and said okay, I'll be patient with it, and then it kind of just sat here and then sharp pullback, and then I thought okay, I'm kind of protected. Maybe I got lucky. Maybe that's the line, and then boom, just came out, tags me out for 0.72 profit, and that was it. So currently 3.72% up. But anyway, that is basically it. And then once again, it was a bit of a patient one. We did carry on going up, and there was trades that I kind of evaluated later and saw, but I don't think I would have been able to take it due to, just being taken out on a break even and just kind of being there. Then I realized again, like, the time between these two trades was basically a day, and then between being tagged out there and the next trade, 5 days. So I'm basically taking a trade once every 6 days on this. That's basically once a week. So, I shouldn't be in live market conditions taking anything more than one trade. But then again, if I've got 6 things on watch, makes it a little bit more confusing. But anyway, here we had this high over here, this high over here. Okay, minor inflection points, just inflection points. Anyway, so we broke the high, and then I saw this come back down, and I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, so I saw this as we are in this 1, 2, 3 to that inflection point to the left we marked on, which I'll just pull this in. So we had the 1, 2, 3 here. We came to this inflection point. Okay, you could argue that it was that one too, but it was just more so how we rejected. And then I took a short. Now I took the short, and instantly, I think it went to like just under 1%. But yeah, I think even so, I moved it to break even pretty quickly. Oh shit, I pressed the wrong button. Let me go back to the weekly. Let's just kind of find this. I think here it is. Yeah, so I moved it pretty quickly. And then it did run a decent amount of profit. I think it ran a total of 1% anyway. But yeah, about 1.5. But yeah, then I just kind of came up, and it was funny because I was holding the break even. Like I was holding the solid break even. I was like, you know what, I'm going to be a little bit more. I'm just going to lock in a little bit more because I had this wick, and I was like, okay, cool. I could protect myself a little bit, and then it just tagged me up by a few pips. But it is what it is. I could have still been in the trade, absolutely, but yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I think when I looked back on it, I was like, oh man, it could have been about 3%. Would have been back to where I was, but doesn't really matter. And then the trade played out further. Then I realized that this is a larger correction to the upside, but I could potentially get involved in a good trade. So I think this was also a bad trade that I took. So I got tagged in here, so it touched the double bottom, full retrace, right? So I was like sick. So hourly, this was our low. We have this sort of potential expanding to push further, and we had that full retrace, engulfed it all. That's the trade. Came out shortly and just tagged me out, I think. So yeah, so that was it, and then just got tagged out there. So then I was currently like what 2%? Yeah, caught it about 2.8% up. So it wasn't really good at this time, and I was kind of a bit like, oh, it's a bit of a bummer. And then price began to correct, and then we formed this low here. So we had like this sort of inflection point, corrected, filled the inflection point, pushed up, and then we started correcting up further. Then I saw this as, oh, could this be a corrective squeeze for a middle section, or is it just going to be a flag to the upside? But because we were sitting on this high, it was a bit tricky. So I was then thinking, let's be a bit smart because we could see a 1, 2, 3. So then I was waiting, and then we pushed up further, and I was like, no surprise, and there's an inflection point here. If we are going to pull back down and create something larger, this could be a great zone for us to do it. So then I saw it. There wasn't an entry, and I missed this, unfortunately. I was like, damn, okay. There was no entry, and then we kind of came in here, and I was like, interesting. And there was enough flags to set a entry for a short. So I saw this as a push below here, create a flag, and I'll take the reduced risk entry. Essentially saw it like that, and then got tagged in, and I think yeah, I was just tagged out again. So another loss. So I was only about 1% up at this point. Really, really like, what's happening? Like, had a good inflection point there. Let's call it. We broke above this price, pushed back in. Are we going to come back down? It was just one of them ones where I was like, okay, a little bit more patient then. So I played it out. Couldn't really find any solid trades in there, so I was like patient. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to wait till we get to the absolute high and then reevaluate. So then we got here. We came in with a 1, 2, 3, which I liked. We came in with structure. We didn't quite finish off this structure, but I like the fact that we're coming to this inflection point very corrective now. Looking at the bigger picture, super corrective, and that's the most recent. That's the line in the sand as well that I was looking at before. So I thought I'll wait, see how we get there. When we get there, evaluate. So waiting, and boom! I think we had a touch off it, um, which looking back on, I think I was more so now thinking that's actually a really terrible trade. Um, but I think this was more so what I was looking at, and I was like, okay, great. So if I take this trade, um, we basically have the push up, we have a small little test, and then we have rejection. Could this be enough? Now looking at how corrective this is, perhaps maybe it wasn't the best of ideas because I look at this like this. I'm thinking, okay, yeah, it's enough for this to just push up even further. But it did play out. And yeah, I just stayed in by a few pips. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's lucky again. That's a very lucky trade. This one went on to bank me around about 6%. Um, and then this is where it got a bit interesting actually, because I was holding this sell and I was like, you know what? We've come down to this inflection zone. We've pushed away. We could see some larger pullback, or we could even pull back and keep on going further because we are looking at the larger flag. So then I kind of thought, you know, after I saw this, I was like, oh, okay, this looks like flag to the upside after that push away. Let's just wait, reevaluate. And then we started to correct. At this point here, I was like, shit, I think we're going to be pushing up further. Okay, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to lock in 6% there and I'm going to take a counter trend and hedge my own position. So if we do break, I think when we came to the low, no, it was at this point. So I think it was at this point where I already had my pending order set. That was set in for, okay, cool. If it goes up, tags me out, I've made 6%, and then potentially it would run. Or if it doesn't, it might tag me out, come back in, take my 1%, I still make 5%. So it wasn't a bad trade at all. Took that, and then it was basically here where I was like, oh, do you know what? I might just take the 1% loss now because it's going to come down. It's not looking too great. But the next candle just kind of just threw me off. It was just like, hang on, and I think here it was, boom, just went straight up. Perhaps maybe because of how price moved, slippage or something. I'm not too sure. I'm not sure if that would have been a thing on my take profit, but yeah, I mean that moved hell of impulsive. And then yeah, so I was running around about 4% there. I think when it came around about 6%. I thought I'd lock in around about 4 point something. And then, yeah, I think at this point here, I was like, oh, we could just, create something larger. And then I was out of the trade for about 4% there. So it was about 10% already in this very short span of time. And that 6% was definitely pretty lucky. That 4% was definitely strategic. So, I think there was some good trades there. But what I kind of learned through this back testing session was more so some of my trades were premature. And lucky. And I think definitely need to be more patient before making an entry. I think I was a little bit too quick on my trigger, you know, and I think drilling down onto that, I think it was more so because it could be a level of FOMO to be honest as well, deep like psychologically, because I think essentially I was clicking the trigger because I wanted to get involved and I thought this was enough, but that wasn't enough confirmation looking at the larger structure. I think more so strong push away and then sort of the retrace there would have been more better. But there was there's countless retrace here and a retrace here. So definitely lucky. And I think this went in the afternoon around about okay, it was midnight. So I guess even high spreads was here. So spreads could have possibly nah, I don't think it would have taken me out. But yeah, so that was that really. But luckily I was in the trade. And yeah, it was nice. So I think that was it. And then the back testing session, I just kind of cut it off. So essentially that's it. But yeah, cool. Thanks for watching, guys.